So when it comes to adding colour to your surrealist artwork in response to your theme, we're going to be using watercolours, okay? So to use watercolours, obviously, you know, you mix it with water. Make sure that you've got a range of brushes that are thin and thick according to the different surface areas that you're going to be painting, all right? So obviously you use a thin brush when you're doing detail, and when you're doing large areas, you want to use a thicker brush, okay? So I would always say start with the lighter colours first, and then you can build up and add darker colours last. That's because if you go straight in with black, and then you want to add like a white or a yellow, when it's still wet, that black is going to bleed into the lighter colours and end up smudging and making your colours a bit dirty. So just try to prevent using those darker colours first, lighter colours initially, all right? So when you're mixing colours, use the lid of the palette rather than mixing the colours straight from here, because obviously you don't want to dirty the colours, and then the next person who uses this palette is going to have really dirty colours. So I'm making like a eucalyptus blue, which is a really bluey green, and I'm going to use that, just apply that first of all, mixing it with water. So it's quite watery at the moment, so if you want to obviously get more pigment on there, you just add a little bit more pigment, less water. Wash your brush in between. Every time you change colour, wash that brush. Okay, so you can just apply like a watercolour wash initially, and then if you know that you want to add darker tones after, you can always work into it after. So I'm going to switch brush and get to use a thinner brush. This really nice eucalyptus blue, which is a real bluey green, a really nice pale bluey green, the native tree of Australia. And then I'm going to, obviously, I'm thinking about the direction in which I'm brushing. Because these shapes are curved, the eucalyptus leaves are curved, the way I'm going to be painting them is curved. So my brush strokes are going to go along the line of the shape. So I often think about going around the outline first, and then you fill in the middle. It makes it a lot easier to keep that painting quite neat. But obviously it depends on you and your painting style. Not everyone wants to paint in a super neat way. Just totally depends on you. So you start with the outline. Remember thinking about that directional brush stroke, right? If you paint going across like that, it's going to make the leaf look really flat. So you want to make sure that you are thinking about the curve and the shape of the object in which you're painting, so that you give that object a bit more depth, and we can really feel the form and the depth of that particular shape and that particular object, all right? So I'm going to be building up gradually, going into my darker colours. So I've got the blue of the tears that I'm going to have, but they're going to be quite pale colour. Again, I'm thinking about that curve. I'm taking my brush strokes down. I'm starting with the outline of the shape that I'm painting first of all. And then it makes it a lot easier for me to paint in the middle without going beyond the lines and making it a bit messy. Okay, and I'm using my palette to mix colours rather than mixing straight away from here and making all the colours dirty. All right, so remember, top tips with watercolour, the direction in which you're painting in, painting around the outline first, and making sure that you've got the right ratio between water and pigment, depending on how dark or watery you want your colour to be, all right? And remember to mix colours from the palette, adding in 1 or 2 colours, mixing it here without mixing straight in here and making the colours dirty, all right? Give that a go. Light colours first, continue building up until you have your darker colours last.